you're out hunting all the time, and when you're going out and you're like, if I had to get food out here, what would I have available to eat? I can tell you what you wouldn't have all this processed food, but particularly like powder. Like we make powdered sugar, we make powdered flour, and we combine them together, but we've changed the nature of the food so much that it's interesting. I saw Darius Muzaffarian, who's a researcher at Tufts, he's the guy that put out the study that says, or was part of the study that said, Lucky Charms are healthier than eggs. You saw that last year. That's total BS, right?
Hilarious.
But one thing he did point out was that over the last 20 years or so, we haven't really been eating much more calories than we were. Like from the 1960s to about 2000, we ate more calories, and maybe that explains why everybody got fat. But since that time, we really haven't eaten much more, but we've eaten so much more ultra-processed food. And in fact, right now, the U.S. diet is close to 70% ultra-processed, which you think about, it's like crazy, and our kids are getting fat. But one thing that's interesting is because you're talking about the microbiome, right? Our gut flora. When you eat like whole food, it goes farther down your digestive tract, and then our microbiome actually consumes some of it. Up to 22% of our calories can be consumed by our microbiome. But when you're just eating sugar, it goes straight in you. So those calories, your gut microbiome doesn't get any of that. So it's like you're absorbing more calories. So just by changing the quality of the food, you're changing how many calories you absorb, and that is what some people say is part of what leads to this obesity thing. But we know, for instance, here's another thing. The USDA came out with a study 3 months ago. 91% processed food diet is healthy. This is what they're pushing, trying to get us, because they're trying to position us to say.
What was this study?
This was the USDA put it out. It was probably, I think it was the Nova study. I might have that on there, Jamie, but it's basically because there's starting to be backlash against ultra processed foods. I mean, South America is starting to ban this stuff, which I think, I'm not for banning food. I mean, I think that gets into, freedom of choice and things like that. So you shouldn't ban, just like you can still smoke if you want to. It's not the best for you, so you don't want to do that. But at the same point, they're saying this stuff there's a lot of backlash. And people like myself and probably you and others just saying, look, this ultra-processed garbage is literally killing us. It's making us crazy. It's making us depressed. All these people with mental health disorders, a lot of that nutrition is part of that, and we can talk about that. But, what they're seeing is there's a backlash against that. Yeah, so that's a Nova
Dietary guidelines meet Nova, developing a menu for a healthy dietary pattern using ultra-processed foods.
So they're basically saying, hey, how do we make people eat more processed food and make it quote-unquote healthy? And they showed that they could make a diet that's 91% ultra-processed foods and still be quote-unquote healthy.
Look at what it says here. It says the purpose of this proof of concept study was to determine the feasibility of building a menu that aligns with the recommendations for a healthy dietary pattern from the 2020 DGA and includes over 80%, what is that, KCAL?
Kilocalories.
Kilocalories from UPF, ultra-processed foods, as defined by Nova, designed to accomplish this objective. We first developed a list of foods that fit Nova criteria for UPF, ultra-processed foods, fit within a dietary patterns in the 2020 DGA and are commonly consumed by Americans. We then use these foods to develop a what is that, 7D? What does that mean?
7 day.
7-day, 2,000 kilocalorie menu modeled on the My Pyramid sample menus, and assess this menu for nutrient content as well as for diet quality using the Healthy Eating Index. The results in the ultra-processed DGA menu that was created, 91% of the kilocalories were from ultra-processed food or Nova Category 4. The HEI 215 score was 86 out of a possible 100 points. The sample menu did not achieve a perfect score due primarily to excess sodium and an insufficient amount of whole grains. This menu provided adequate amounts of all macro and micronutrients except vitamin D, vitamin E, and choline. Conclusions. Healthy dietary patterns can include most of their energy from ultra-processed foods, still receive a high diet quality score, and contain adequate amounts of most macro and micronutrients. Boy.
Right. So remember, USDA the guys that go there, they leave USDA and they go sit on the board of directors at Nabisco and PepsiCo. And so this is really, I think, what this is. It's positioning us as a society to accept that ultra-processed foods are our food. It's really human pet food. I mean, you see what happens to our pets.
Yes.
And everybody's fat, so we're going to still eat. We're going to say, well, it's still okay. If it's okay if you eat your human dog chow or your human chow, just keep doing that. Don't ask questions. And oh, by the way, here's an Ozempic shot or a semaglutide shot. Semaglutide shot will give you to kind of keep you chilled out. So it's really, I mean, it's almost sinister.